Okay, good afternoon and welcome, you amazing human beings. My name is Dane van der Mast. This is Dollars for Lunch. It is Thursday, the 9th of March. Just a massive welcome to every single one of you that are in the chat with us this afternoon. For all our MVTs who've been with us in our Powell live sessions, just put up your hand. Would love to hear from you. If you're brand new, please let us know. If this is your first time joining us in our live broadcast, just give me a quick shout out to every single person that is with us. I can see Andy's in the house. I can see Rishmi, Lana, Shamim, as well as Cohen. In terms of our MVTs, let's up in green. If you'd like to become an MVT, support the Globex 360 live TV community, you can hit the join button down below. But if you haven't already done so, like and subscribe. It is absolutely free. To the rest of you guys, let us know where in the world you are joining us. Hopefully nobody's sitting in traffic, but I'd love to know if you're at home, are you at work, where in the world are you? Are you in Joburg? Are you in South Africa? Are you anywhere else in the world? We'd love to know where exactly you are at. Now guys, we've had a pretty intense week already. We are going to see some big moves again today. And again, remember, tomorrow is NFP Friday, massive volume. And this is going to be a big one just because of where we are in the state of the US economy, right? Looking at the Powell testimonies, if you guys were part of that, you should have learned a ton. You should have had valuable insight into the state of the US economy, how inflation plays into that. And based on all the questions that Papa Powell essentially faced over the last 2 days, you should have a really good idea of what is in the minds of the Americans, right? The representatives, the members from government that were asking these questions represent a certain demographic of the people that they obviously look after. So a lot of the questions that were posed over the last 2 days are basically what is on the mind of every single American. I see Butler has joined us. Welcome and thank you for subscribing to the community. So this NFP is going to be big. It's going to be massive. We have got some positive dollar data that came in at 3:15 already this afternoon. Right, negative dollar data, more people unemployed or filed for unemployment than expected. Now this is going to be a key data reading. We're going to dive into that a bit further when we get into the fundamentals for a lot of the reasons that Powell's been speaking about in the last 2 days, the impact and the potential knock-on effect over what we could see for this NFP Friday is going to be massive. I will be giving you my thoughts about this. I will be giving you some of my predictions, but please, everything we do here as part of the live TV community is for educational and entertainment purposes. Nothing should be considered financial advice any way, shape or form. And you need to understand, guys, trading the financial markets is extremely risky if you do not know what it is you're doing. Practice safe trading, risk management above everything, and price action is king at the end of the day. So without further ado, let's just check from a few of the people. Let's have a look here. Pretoria, I can see is in the house. I can see Menland, Maine. Beautiful stuff. Rustenburg is in the house. Let's see. First time trader, Rufstua, you almost got me there. Rishan Govindar C says hi. Wolves Forex trader is all the way from Pretoria. Imelo there, Ermelo, I believe it is. And Tuli says subscribed. Beautiful. Welcome, guys. Let's jump into the news. Let's unpack what's happening around the world. We will then get into some analysis as we prepare for the New York Stock Exchange Open at 4:30, and that's going to be happening in the next 8 minutes and 5 seconds from now. So let's jump straight in. Let's open up with the news in terms of what's happening in the world, and then we'll dive a little bit deeper into the data and what we see happening for the rest of the day. So let's move in. Looking on the local front, I see gold is super keen to jump into the show. We'll get to gold in a second. But South Africa has had its first current account deficit in 3 years. Now, this has been a long time coming. I will be sharing this article if you'd like to read up more about it. But this comes on the back of South Africa being grey listed, right? Being moved into that grey listing. In addition to that, we also have another article that says S&P, Standard & Poor's downgrade on the South African outlook, right? Again, these are all going to weigh in on the international opinion or international view of the investability of the South African rand, right? Again, this timing is extremely bad. Looking at load shedding, looking at the political positions that we're currently in, it only means the South African rand is in for a beating, right? We've got some really good price action. It's going to be a really great show of whether we see the price action dominating in terms of this current position South African Rand is in. South African Rand is in that resistance level, right? All this negative data will have a way in. Now, again, it's going to be to be determined whether price action remains king, or does this external fundamental data mean as much as we think it does? Again, NFP is going to play a very big role in the position of the South African Rand, right? If we see a weaker dollar tomorrow, which is what I'm personally expecting, we could have some massive short opportunities on USD ZAR. But again, let's get around to the price action where we'll break this apart even further. Now, again, in the top of pretty much all news outlets around the world is going to be pretty much the Powell testimonies that came through in the last 2 days. Now, again, if you're with us and part of that, then just a massive well done, because again, over and above spending time with us, and we appreciate you investing your time right here with us on Globex 360 Live TV. Over and above that, you should have learned a ton from the markets. I'd love to know from you guys in the comments, when we're looking at the comments, what about the last 2 days in terms of those live speeches and testimonies? Have you learned anything about the US economy? Have you learned anything deeper, right? A lot of the times there's this expectation that it's going to be too technical, they're going to be speaking politically, but if you just listen to what they're saying, it's really easy to understand and interpret, and I hope you learned a ton. I certainly did, and I hope that we learned that together. So again, everything is going to be about that Powell discussion. Now, there's an article in Yahoo Finance saying why the recession odds spiked after Powell addressed Congress in terms of these last 2 days. Well, it's very, very simple, right? A lot of the markets have labeled Powell's address, or at least his statements, as hawkish. I don't believe that they were, right? Powell was very clear about his approach. He's very clear about saying that interest rate hikes may need to continue higher for longer to bring inflation back under control. This was a very normal statement. It wasn't very aggressive. It was just simply saying, hey, listen, we're going to continue raising interest rates to deal with inflation. This may happen for longer, right, in order to deal with the problem. Now, the reason why people are taking this, or why economists are looking at this so harshly, is that there's a careful balance between raising interest rates and forcing an economy into a recession. Now, the big discussion has been until now is that there is a way to deal with inflation by raising interest rates in a way that allows an economy to have a soft landing. You'll hear this quite often about a hard landing, a soft landing, or no landing. And essentially, a soft landing means a corrective measure. When we talk about Fibonacci, we talk about a corrective move in the market, that the markets, the US economy, will be able to correct in a way that is soft on the economy, so on and so forth. But people are fixated around the statement that was made about unemployment rate needs to rise to come back into balance with a cooling economy. They need to cool off the economy to avoid inflation. There was one governor who addressed him and said, hey, but do you know that your actions are going to cause 2 million more people to be unemployed? That's unfortunately the reality of a red hot economy. The US job markets is at a 53-year high, right? They haven't seen unemployment rates like this in 53 years. The reality is to soften that and to bring that US economy back under control, there is some sacrifices. Now, again, people are saying that, there may be a hard landing, the US economy may be moving into a much greater recession, but the data doesn't show that, right? We're seeing still massive PPI, CPI data readings. The previous NFP readings were red hot, doing extremely well for the dollar. But if you look at where we are now, and Powell said this quite clearly, there's a few key fundamental data releases that he's looking at to decide the next interest rate that's going to happen at the end of March. Some of those are going to be NFP, CPI, PPI, of which we're all going to be trading right here live together. Again, you guys know we are trading the NFP tomorrow, but if you want to catch CPI, PPI, again, you need to be a Globex 360 account holder with a minimum of $100 in your live accounts. These are all going to constitute and build up to that next interest rate announcement, which we know has a ripple effect on the rest of the world. Looking at interest rate announcements that have happened in the US, South Africa has followed suit. If you've got a variable interest rate on any sort of credit or debt, right, you've seen the bank has issued notices that you're going to be paying more per month on that credit that you have, or on the debt that you have with the bank. So this ripple effect is massive for the rest of the world. It is big, it is massive, right? So NFP tomorrow is going to be huge, right? Because it's going to be one of the key readings, one of the fundamental talking points of what we saw over the last 2-3 days is the unemployment rate, is how are people's jobs going to be affected with the decisions by the Federal Reserve, of which Papa Powell is the head of. So all these items are going to be absolutely key and super important. Now, quickly moving into some of those fundamentals, because we don't have a long time before we get that New York Stock Exchange. Today's fundamentals have obviously already passed because we've obviously already seen some of the data that's come out. I did put in a notice in the Telegram group that one of the big items to look out for today is going to be those initial jobless claims, right? And continuing jobless claims came in much higher than expected. There was an expectation for 195,000 people to file for unemployment, and it came in at 211, making the continuing jobless claims that 1.718 million for this previous month, right? This is going to lead on into tomorrow's NFP. Now, quickly having a look really quickly, I want to just open up the S&P 500 heat index, which may still show up gray this afternoon, but what we will see was a mixed bag in relation to what happened yesterday, right? Powell's speech rocked the market. If you're with us, you would have seen that for yourself. It was big, it was massive. However, we are here to trade the markets, right? Let's just jump in to some of that data that we are seeing this afternoon. So behind me, we're going to start off this afternoon with the US 30, which is otherwise known as the Dow Jones, just showing you how big that news impact was, right? Prior to the news popping out, I looked at 2 buys in this area. It was still the same buys I actually had from yesterday when we made that triple bottom in the live event from yesterday, right? That weaker dollar data sent new US stock markets to the top side. This afternoon, right, really clearly what we have to do here is we're looking at that 61.8. I'm going to explain and break this down once the New York Stock Exchange opens. But should we punch through the 61.8 on the New York Stock Exchange open for this afternoon, that may reveal the market's hand at looking for those higher highs. So if we punch through there, I will add a position into my long positioning. And let's have a look here. We should be in the New York Stock Exchange. We are open and markets are punching towards the top side. So I'm adding in a little bit of a buy here at that 61.8. Because again, this is where I want to see, do the markets punch through? I've got a much smaller trade here on the 61.8. Again, once we start running, we will then add to that position if necessary. Remember, if you caught the fundamental data that came out at 3:30, that was the catalyst that essentially pushed this market higher and already towards that top side. So again, we're looking at punching through the 61.8. That level is going to be 32912. So we want to clear 32912, and then that is going to be what we need to get that continuation towards that top side. Now, markets are going to be looking a little bit distorted based on the big moves we've seen over the past couple of days, but it certainly looks like the volume may be towards the top side. I'd like to see a nice, healthy New York Stock Exchange push towards that top side. So should we get another 250 pips to the top side, I think that would be nice and clear that we can obviously realize that move towards the top side. Again, we are waiting for the 5 o'clock reversal. So depending on what happens there is how we will essentially judge the rest of the afternoon for this trading day. In terms of just price action, I just want to look at a little bit of a channel of what we could draw out here to mark and monitor where our TPs could be. So there we go. We've pushed into that 250 pip range. That is exactly what we're looking for this afternoon, to just bring our Trump and do his thing again as we just obviously spike out into that zone. So at this point, you're welcome to take some profit at this particular zone, tighten up a stop loss if necessary. I'm going to go in and then close off that trade because I've got my previous trades much lower down. So what I'm doing over here is I'm simply going to be editing out my other 2 trades and start to move with some sort of trailing stop. Now, because I'm entered much earlier than where maybe we are right here, I'm going to be doing about a 13,000 points trailing stop on both of my trades. Let's just do that. I think I'm going to maybe do a 13,000 and a 10,000 trailing stop there. There we go. Let's maybe make this one a little bit tighter. Do maybe an 8,000 on that one over there. So in essence, for the New York Stock Exchange, we're looking for that punch through. And now, because we've at least moved into profit territory, I can take some time to speak about what it is we're seeing here. So my objective and my strategy for this afternoon session, and primarily for tomorrow, is I want to get in as much profit from a buy perspective as humanly possible on the US 30, primarily for two reasons, right? First reason being that I believe there's a high probability we could see negative jobs data tomorrow, right? If we get that negative jobs data, that is what a large portion of the discussion has been from Powell's perspective, saying, hey, listen, US labor market is outside of balance. US labor market is extremely strong for an economy that they are trying to cool down. Now, if they start to see that the jobs data starts to cool off and starts to come in slightly more negative, that will reassure the stock market that Powell is not going to be as aggressive at the end of March, right? That would cause a major ripple effect. It'll cause a major push towards the top side from a technical and price action perspective on the US stock markets, primarily being US 30 as well as NASDAQ US 100, and we may even see S&P 500, so on and so forth, following suit. So tomorrow's NFP data is going to be key and essential, and what happens tomorrow in terms of NFP may continue out for the next trading week. So there's never been a more important fundamental data event than NFP looking at tomorrow. So if you're in those buys, you should be a nice good profit there. Maybe close out for plus minus, close a portion of your position for a couple hundred pips there, 200 to 300 pips towards the top side. We still have more to go. This still has the ability to move quite substantially further. However, just tighten up your stop losses. I've got my two previous trades all the way over here, just before we got that jobs data, and all I'm doing is just trailing my stop losses. I've got stop loss 1 there, stop loss 2 there, and I'm just simply trailing my stop loss with price. We would be looking for a 5 p.m. continuation this afternoon. So if the New York Stock Exchange is able to do a little bit of a push, we get that additional volume at 5 p.m. It's not often we get a continuation, but looking at where we are in the greater scale of things, just from a pure price action perspective, I just want to show you guys this. If we look at this last move here, this is looking at a 30-minute time frame. If we look at the start of March, remember February was one of the worst months in the stock market or Wall Street in the past couple of years, right? Being February itself. The start of March was looked at as a potential good month or potential month for reversal, which is what we saw. Start of March, we can see that US 30 started that breakout process. We had a really good couple of weeks here. Start of March, pretty much the first week of March was an absolute thumper. And then the start of Powell's speech and testimonies on Tuesday, we traded this one live. We had some short positions in this market, and it absolutely collapsed. So what I'm looking at from this perspective is there price action here? Is there a known retracement? Is there known levels here? And what we see very clearly when we apply Fibonacci from just here behind my head right there to that the impulse high, we can see that price action has come and followed all of these price action / Fibonacci levels. And what we can see is that yesterday we made a slight push below that 78.6, recovered back up to 78.6, and that was one of the reasonings for my buy on that fundamental data. Was a perfect storm situation, where price had recovered above a known level, that 78.6, and then we had that negative dollar data, which we know has got a positive effect on the US stock markets, right? So that impulse to the top side. Now, again, holding up above the 61.8, I've labeled that as well. You can see as a key zone that we are at the moment obviously pushing above. Now, obviously taking a buy into the zone was a little bit risky in the sense that we're buying into resistance. However, looking at and understanding the pressures of the Federal Reserve interest rates that is coming up, as well as the Powell's testimonies he's given over the last 2 days, there's an extreme amount of pressure on him to see that his economic policies he's put into place is having some sort of slowing down or cooling off on the US economy. Again, everybody's fears that inflation can run rampant, and that they would have to do even stricter measures which would force the US economy into a recession. So that is why this good fundamental data, when I say good, I don't mean good for the dollar, good for the stock market, meaning weaker dollar data, right, essentially tells the market that, hey, the data is coming through. It's maybe delayed, it's maybe 1 or 2 months late, but the efforts of the Federal Reserve are finally having some sort of transitional impact on the markets. And this would tell investors and give investors that clarity and that certainty that US Wall Street markets and stock markets will start to make a bigger push towards the top side. So bad data is actually good data, right? We live in that world where bad fundamental data is good for Wall Street at this point in time, right? So yeah, that's going to be key and essential to our play for later on tomorrow. So just looking at the New York Stock Exchange Open, we moved for a total about 500 pips there. I don't know how much you guys were able to smash and or gain, but from the fundamental data event, I'm up about 2,000 pips, plus minus about 20,000 points towards that top side. I can see Fruad is late to the party, but obviously with us. Let's see. I got my analysis indicator ready. Master Champ, let's see. Did you killed initial jobless claims? Yes. Akil Singh says yes in cells now. Vani says let's go. Master Champ say Akil, I want sniper entry ahead of NFP tomorrow. Akil saying I'm not a mentor or signal provider, bro. So guys, that's the big thing about what we do right here at Globex 360, specifically at live TV, is that again, nobody's here to provide a signal or financial advice. What we're here to do is take the best minds, come together and talk about the markets. What is the outcome? We could be wrong, we could be right, but the reality is sharing information, sharing outlooks, right? The reality is not any one person understands the market through and through. Otherwise, there'd be no hunger in the world. There'll be no poverty, right? If someone could just print hundreds of millions of dollars by being right every single time. We're right sometimes, we're wrong sometimes. Our goal is to be right more than we're wrong, but that's the beauty of being in live TV, right? Is having an ability for us to share. We are going to adapt live TV to include you guys in a more inclusive way, right? An ability for us to communicate, to have you guys with us in the live streams, jumping in, broadcasting with us. We can see your faces, we can discuss, we can analyze. That is where we want to move to a 24/7 live broadcast, or at least during US hours or South African hours, right? So again, just super important. People ask for signals or sniper entries. The reality is live TV is a way of teaching why we do what we do and the reasoning behind it. A lot of the times we discuss why we're going to do something beforehand, but in some of the cases, you know, I really hope to impart with you guys how to read and take and use fundamental data, how to read swings, how to read price action, so that you can be in trades even by the time we go live, so that we can discuss what trades are we in, why did we take them, was it good, was it bad, what was the result, because that's the reality of being a trader, is having a community. Many of you know being a trader by yourself is extremely lonely. You're surrounded with charts, you're surrounded with data. That's all you've got around you. And that is why live TV is such a beautiful thing. That's why every single one of you, I appreciate so much being with us in these live sessions to share. Again, remember, if you have an analysis, my Telegram link is down below. You're allowed to take a screenshot, send it to me, and we'll open it up and we'll discuss. We'll look at it. You may be right, I may be wrong. That is what it is. But in most cases, we hit the nail on the head most times. So let's have a look here. So we are moving nicely in profit. Again, if you bought up into that 61.8, you should be smiling at this point in time. I would say just go and secure and, you know, pretty much protect yourself from a stop loss perspective. We can utilize Fibonacci for that too, to give us some sort of certainty over where the markets could retrace to and still be safe. And so if we look at the whole impulse of the New York Stock Exchange, or at least that iceberg opening, the safest place to protect yourself right now would be the 32883 level. Now again, remember, these are Globex 360 assets and price lists. So if you're trading with a different broker, A, I don't know what you're doing in the first place, but B, your levels and your prices will not be the same as ours, right? Please understand that. So if you're trading somewhere else, what are you doing? Go and withdraw, open up an account with the link down below and get into the place where this is where it's at. There's no other broker on the planet that will trade live fundamentals with their clients. You guys have been out there, you've seen it. Like, you trade fundamental big events with another broker, they don't pay you. They say, oh, we're not paying you that, whatever. Anyway, not here to speak bad about other brokers. I've been around, I know what the industry is about. It is a bit of a mess, right? Jeremy is saying, please consider a traders meetup in Cape Town. Absolutely, it's on the agenda for this month. Actually, before the end of the month, it is my wish to have start doing big events once again, right? It's meetups, it's having fun, taking some photos, discussing the markets, just having a good time, talking about the markets, education, whatever the case may be. So definitely stay tuned. That will be happening before the end of March. We are looking at Joburg, we are looking at Cape Town, we are looking at Durban. So it will be big, it will be massive. So yes, that is something we are definitely going to be doing without a doubt. So yeah, from a stop loss perspective, I'd say 32880 is going to be the safest placed for us this afternoon. But yeah, from a pure price action perspective, New York Stock Exchange punched through quite nicely, retracing, holding up above the zone, which is good for us. Now, again, there's something else I'd like to discuss, and this is a really great way. A lot of people ask, well, how do we know that, this move is dollar dominated? Is this stock Wall Street? Where's the driving factor? There's a really great way of seeing it, right? So I'm going to open up for you guys really quickly. We're going to switch over to the dollar index, and I want you to notice something. Okay. So again, this is having a look at the dollar index, and it's just a really good way of understanding, is this market driven, meaning stock market driven, or is this dollar driven, right? This is currently the dollar index, and here we're going to go to a 30-minute time frame. Okay, so again, right, having a look at this big spike up. What was the big spike up? This was Powell's testimony, right? This was day one. This was Tuesday, right? The 7th. We saw markets immediately reacted. Lots of dollar strength. Again, this is where we traded live. We shorted the US 30. It fell like a stone. I think that was about 70,000 points, 7,000 pips on Tuesday evening. We were live for about 3 hours for the session, right? So that's done and dusted. Look at day two. Day two, there's not a lot happening, but have a look at just this afternoon. Okay, this afternoon comes out. We get a little bit of dollar data, right? But what happens? Nothing much even happened, right? In terms of the pure price action, nothing was broken, nothing was, gone against you in terms of just the pure data. It's just business as usual, right? Just from a pure price action perspective. But have a look at how the markets reacted, right? Primarily looking at US 30, right? Have a look at that. So there's the US 30, there's the dollar reaction. So what does this tell us? It tells us very, very clearly that this reaction we're seeing in the markets actually has very little to do with the dollar. Yes, negative fundamental data on the dollar, right? Sure, more people filed for unemployment than was previously forecast. Sure, no brainer. But look at the different reaction from the stock market to the dollar markets, right? Or looking at FX. And this tells you, and it kind of gives you a sense of where do investors sit from an emotional perspective. We can clearly see here that little bit of weaker dollar data caused this massive upthrust or buying power in the US 30, telling us that investors at the moment are pricing in, listen to this, are pricing in a stronger dollar for NFP. Right? The only reason that we get this massive upthrust to the top side is that they weren't anticipating, there being weaker or bad dollar data. But then the question is it the bad dollar data that's contributing towards this upthrust or this buying activity? And it's no. The selling off right now on US 30 on Wall Street is the fear of the Federal Reserve hiking interest rates and being more aggressive than what was previously thought. So when we start to see this weaker than expected dollar fundamental data, and we see such a big knee-jerk reaction on the stock markets, we're starting to see that the stock markets at the moment are pricing in that stronger dollar, meaning a lower move. When we see a knee-jerk reaction, it's unexpected. Right, and this tells me that if we get weaker NFP data tomorrow, we are going to see a massive reaction on the stock markets as a whole. US 30, NASDAQ, S&P 500. But again, NFP is a little bit more complicated than just one point of data. It's not just unemployment. It's not just the unemployment rate. It's not just how many people filed for unemployment. There's average hourly earnings. There's NFP. And there's normal payrolls. There's a bunch of data points. There's about 6 different data points that we need to interpret, which we will be doing live tomorrow. Now, again, if you have $1,000 in your live account, we're doing the advanced prep session an hour before the public events for NFP. So if you have $1,000 or more in your live account, it means we're going to do the advanced setup. We're going to go through all the past data. What type of numbers could we expect, and what would the reaction be based on past data. And again, remember, this is not financial advice. This is looking at the data. The data is there. It's publicly available to you. The charts are there. Past NFPs are there. We're simply doing the work, presenting it, discussing and debating, and setting up accordingly for what it is we want to see and what we could potentially see in the markets, right? So if you want to be part of that, we are kicking off, I believe it is, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's about 1 o'clock tomorrow. So if you have a live account with more than $1,000 in, you will be getting the link to that event for tomorrow. I can just see somebody jumped in there. Aaron, Africa Dussaud has jumped in. Welcome, Aaron. I think we're bringing Trump one last time really quickly because we are certainly pressing through nicely into that 500 pip range. So if you are in that buy with us, you are well over 500 pips in profit, and we're seeing that spike continue towards that top side. Beautiful, beautiful trade. Again, this is just based on the sentiment of the market. There's a lot of emotions at play here. So again, maybe consider closing up some of that profit, securing your risk, moving your stop loss to reduce your risk. Ideally to entry if you can, but again, if you want to play it safe, utilize Fibonacci from a retracement perspective to obviously manage your risk accordingly. Again, that is not the dollar index, apologies, that is US 30. Now, moving on to some other markets, we are going to see massive reactions. Again, this is gold. Gold has been trying to poke its head into the show for the last little bit already. Gold reacting extremely positively. Again, off of that weaker dollar data. The dollar has been extremely strong again since that Powell discussion. And again, it may be counterintuitive, but you know, the discussions that Powell is having, right, these are all like really serious things. They're discussing people being unemployed, they're discussing, and yet the dollar continues to dominate. That has obviously been a story we've been covering for the last couple of months over why these interest rates are causing a stronger dollar, why they're causing a weaker stock market. We've obviously covered that in past events. So again, if you want to be a part and parcel of the channel in terms of a supporter, we are going to be organizing our playlists in terms of past events. So all the past analysis, the past recession models we've discussed and drawn up, we are going to be arranging those playlists, but they're only going to be visible to members of the channel. If you'd like to be a member, there's a join button down below. I know for Apple users, some of you have said you can't see it in the past, but if you're an Android user or just watching us off a PC, there's a little join button there. I think it's $10 a month, if I'm not mistaken. I see Tumelo's in the house, Fabian's in the house. Fabian came a little bit late. I see Lana's here with us as well. Tumelo's saying, hi family, good afternoon. Tumelo, you're late. I see you. You are half an hour late to class. So let's jump into it. Okay, so gold reacting quite well. Again, for those of you who are enjoying your commodities and spending a lot of time on gold, there is absolutely, once again, a strategy available to us on gold. And again, it's gonna pretty much play off of the same levels we've used in the past, right? Looking at gold on a daily time frame, we have quite a big we're obviously utilizing Fibonacci once again here, but we have a pretty important level that is just north of our current position. So specifically looking at tomorrow's NFP data, in terms of what we could happen or what we could end up seeing, I think it's pretty important that we obviously break this down, is that if we see that weaker dollar data, so meaning if the jobs reports, the jobs data comes in under expectation, we'll obviously break this down in our advanced prep session an hour before NFP, but there is going to be big opportunities on items like gold, on items like Brent. Specifically having a look at Wall Street in terms of NASDAQ, S&P 500, US 30, on all of the items that we've seen those overextensions on that positive dollar data. Remember, everything that goes up must come down. The dollar has been dominating over the past week or so. Now, again, that weaker NFP data could be the last tip of the iceberg, right? It essentially causes that bigger correction across the board. So I'm expecting big things from NFP tomorrow. Again, as with everything, we're not going to be assuming. Our job here is not to guess what the market's going to do. Our job is simply to look for the data as it comes out, deal with it accordingly based on the information that we have in terms of some of that past data. Now, again, I spoke about this just before the show. This is looking at USD ZAR. And a big thing we're looking out for here is, are we going to be seeing that weaker dollar data? Because if we do, we have a perfect price action positioning here on USD ZAR that could potentially be a major sell-off point, right? We've seen this in the past. We've seen, USD ZAR rally just here behind my head here, rally up to this point, break towards, break market structure. I'll maybe show you guys this on a 4-hour time frame. Rally up to this point, break market structure, triple top, right, retest, and then just massively sell off based on some of that weaker dollar data. What are we seeing now? We're seeing exactly the same thing. USD ZAR rallied up into that 1847, 1848 territory, retested, not necessarily making a triple top as we've seen before, but obviously it's utilized that Powell dollar strength coming in from Tuesday and following into Wednesday, and essentially capping out at that 1860 level. Now again, another massive opportunity is that if we see that weaker dollar, what do you think is going to happen to USD ZAR, right? USD ZAR will just fall to the floor, right? We could see massive sell-offs on USD ZAR. And that is my perfect segue into our trade and win competition, guys. I hope every single one of you are aware of this, but we're giving away 40,000 Rand to the top 3 traders in terms of volume on USD ZAR. So if you'd like to be a part of that, we have obviously shared the link. The link is with you in Telegram. But I'm just going to open this up really quickly just so we can all essentially go through this together. But we are giving away 40,000 Rand between the top 3 traders who are able to capitalize on USD ZAR, right? So let me just show you this really quickly. Amazing opportunity for those of you who've got the skill, got the talent, but you're just looking for that added edge to be able to essentially boost your trading account. So top 3 places at the moment, the leaderboard is isolated between account ending 11760, 13.3 lots, account ending 87686, 6.31 lots, and 072275.3 lots, right? So again, the top 3 accounts, we're going to be doing interviews with you, are going to be helping you, getting your accounts funded, getting you boosted, ultimately helping you take your trading to the next level. This USD ZAR position might be exactly what you need in order to boost your competition, or at least your standings at potentially winning here, right? We are going to be in the last week of March, right? Speaking and making contact with the top 10 traders here, be doing interviews with you. There's going to be a ton of different prizes outside of that 40,000. We're going to be doing some personal meet and greets, giving you access to our higher levels of education through the different academies that we are going to be launching as well super shortly. So there is 40,000 reasons why you definitely want to be with us as part of this NFP, as well as just general trading in Globex 360 live TV. That's where it's at. If you guys are trading somewhere else, I don't know why. For whatever reason, I have no idea. There's just no other place like Globex 360, guys. We are waiting for that 5 o'clock reversal at the moment. If you are in that US30 trade, you should be smiling. Again, we're going to see a little bit of retracements. I just want to talk about really quickly what we could expect in terms of that 5 o'clock from a reversal perspective, just so you're aware. And if it happens prematurely, you are obviously set up. So we've got some really good price action at the moment. Obviously, this is not USD ZAR. USD ZAR is super keen to be in the show with us today in terms of the broadcast. But we've got this rising price action, right? Again, the 61.8, if I tidy up this little level here, I just want to tidy up the 61.8, my little rectangle over there. There we go. Just to show you obviously what I'm looking out for, just from a reversal perspective. We can see here, if you guys have that 45 exponential moving average, it's going to help you on indices to give you a dynamic support level, right? You guys know I don't trade with a bunch of indicators. An indicator is just telling you what's already there. We've got eyes, we understand price action, we can see what's happening. Indicators is just a nice to have. So often I get a lot of people saying, oh, but why? You're not using all these fancy or whatever. I don't care about that, right? But in essence, the 45 EMA is useful in the sense giving you a dynamic support level. So we're going to utilize this afternoon the 45 EMA exponential moving average to look for both a support zone. So I would like to see a continuation to the top side in terms of this buy activity. However, should we get a 5 o'clock reversal, right? Meaning, as you guys know, we have a strategy for 5 o'clock in terms of the reversal of the New York Stock Exchange. If we break that 61.8, we may very well be selling off on US30 into the course of the evening. Again, that fundamental data point would be the only reason I'd like to have a buy continuation, because of two reasons. A, we're above that 61.8 golden retracement ratio, and B, we do have that negative fundamental data on the dollar that the markets have been waiting for. So I'd like to obviously see that mature, and I'd like to see that fully realized. We are going to take a quick 5-minute break. We're going to change up some camera batteries and just obviously prepare for whatever trade activity, that additional volume that is coming in at 5 o'clock. So we're going to do a quick 5-minute break, and I will see you guys in 5 minutes, and we'll look at what sort of reversal, what sort of activity we're getting on the stock markets in the next few minutes. So 5 minutes. I've set my time. Go grab some tea, go grab some coffee, whatever it is that you're doing. The flavor of the day for me is Red Bull watermelon. I don't know if you guys have had this. It's an absolute banger. I'm not sponsored by Red Bull. If anybody has a contact, let me know, because I should definitely have some shares there. But I'll see you guys in 5 minutes, in a little bit. Okay, good stuff. So I'm ending the intermission a little bit early just from what I'm seeing on US30, right? I'm just going to point this out. I don't want it to move before we're getting it, but it definitely looks like we could see our reversal happening already, right? It sucks because I do want to obviously hold a position specifically for the reason that we've got that positive US fundamental data, but markets are really starting to want to reverse on this 5 o'clock mark, right? So now you guys have seen the strategy. If you've been part and parcel with us over the last couple of weeks, we've developed this reversal strategy. And basically, I'm not going to break it down now because we have a ton of people publicly joining us that aren't necessarily Globex 360 account holders. So if you want to be essentially dive deeper into the strategy, I'll obviously take you through it. But again, you've got to be a Globex 360 account holder. So I'm simply just looking at this price action. I'm looking at price attempting to break out here. And all I'm doing is I'm hedging my current position. I've got my buys in way lower down. I'm adding in a sell at our current point in terms of that 5 o'clock mark there. And I'm just setting that stop loss slightly higher there. So if we move slightly lower, I'll close out my accounts, my buys for profit. And should we then continue up higher and there's a continuation to the top side, it's not a problem. I'll take a slight loss, but a hedging position is simply just guaranteeing that in any way that you move, that you're in a position to profit regardless. The only way that there is a prerequisite, you can't just open up a buy and sell wherever you want, is one of them have to be in profit. Your stop loss has to be in profit on one position to even consider hedging in one position or in the opposite way, right? Otherwise, you just net neutral, right? So that is extremely, extremely important, just as a little bit of a side note. So I'm looking at that 530, that potential reversal. I'm hoping it doesn't happen just purely because we've got the fundamental data that's come in for the dollar. I'd really like to see this stick. I'd like to see that weaker dollar translate fully into a US 30 long, right? I'd like to see US 30 hold up above the 61.8, have that nice little bit of a push there. If you are on your buys, again, try and stick it out, hold on safe. As I mentioned, a safe stop loss area here is going to be the 32881, where I have my stop losses for my buys. But again, I would like to see a continuation towards that top side on our session this afternoon. So let's see. I'd really like to see a continuation. That's where my heart's at. The strategy we've seen has tended to reverse at that 5 o'clock mark. But again, I'm just going to hope in those fundamentals and hope that we get that positive fundamental data in. So yeah, I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to hold my buy position then rather, and close out my little sell hedge there, just because I'm seeing some positive volume come in for the top side. So let's see if we can hit out. I think from my perspective, if we can just match where our earlier session high was in terms of that initial impulse, I'll be super happy. So if we can do a 32960 in terms of that, that's about 200 pips north of our current position. I'll be really, really satisfied with that. And then I have confirmation that the US 5 o'clock volume is going to be that little bit of a top side move there. So 272, 200 plus minus about 200 pips, 200 points north of our current position. Again, there's a 1 minute time frame. These are all very, very small moves. Again, from a scalping perspective, these are all scalp positions. Again, but just looking at this from a slightly bigger trade perspective, I'm just going to hide this channel. I'm just going to put it on only on the smaller time frames. Just from a bigger perspective, I just want you guys to understand this and why I'm hopeful for that long or that continuation, right? Have a look here. Here's Powell's testimony, right? Just things are absolutely pear-shaped. We traded this successfully yesterday for a sell. We traded, sorry, on Tuesday for a sell. We traded yesterday again successfully for a sell. So market's just been hammered, right? I'm looking at that recovery above the 61.8 over this key level. And even if we go back in time, we can see how the 61.8 has played in the past towards assisting the US 30 in terms of staying in its current zone. That market bottom right there next to my face, right over there, that is again that same 61.8, that key level that we obviously are speaking about. I'm dragging a stop loss, which is not good. There we go. Okay, I was dragging something. Thank goodness it didn't activate. But anyway, that's the reason why I would like to see a continuation. I'd like to see a nice healthy move towards that top side. So that's my hope. That's what I'd like to see. Again, what we hope and like to see, markets just sometimes don't tend to care about whatsoever. But let's give it a look this afternoon. Again, should we make a nice little pop again to another 200 pips, I would think north, I'll be very, very happy with that. Then I at least know the 5 o'clock volume is in our favor towards the top side. Let's give NASDAQ a really quick look. 1 minute time frame, NASDAQ's looking super healthy. German 30, 15 minutes is absolutely smashing it. German 30 is super happy, looking super pumped. Let's have a look here. New York Stock Exchange open. Boom. Germany is not caring nothing. Doesn't care anything for any 5 o'clock reversal. None of that. German 30 is heading towards the stars. US 30 not looking as volatile this afternoon. Let's give it a quick look here. So there's our data. There's our 1530 jobs data that came out right there. Okay, that happened. Boom. Let's quickly give it a look into our New York Stock Exchange open. There we go. There's our New York Stock Exchange open. Nice little pump there for the NASDAQ. And again, the jobs, the tech sector for NASDAQ, right? They're getting hammered just from a bunch of these different fundamental data releases, from announcements of job cuts and all these other funny things. So the NASDAQ is definitely under pressure. My ideal situation, if you had to ask me, Dane, what do you really want to achieve out of this afternoon session? My absolute goal, or where I'd love to be. Now, again, I've entered trades in much lower, right? Somewhere in this region over here. In the ideal world, what I'd like to see is be in profit by the time we get into tomorrow's New York Stock Exchange or tomorrow's NFP. That's my greatest goal. So there, I'm not liking that. I'm seeing that volume come in. I'm going to have to hold our reversal strategy there, and unfortunately I'm going to have to close out my buys, and we're going to have to hold that reversal strategy. So I'm going to close $10,000 in buys, and I'm just going to have to hold that sell, because it does definitely seem that the 5 o'clock reversal is going to definitely push at some point here, and that's unfortunate. I would really like to see a continuation on the buy. But it doesn't seem we're going to get that this afternoon. Just looking at that fat candle there, there's a lot of momentum in that market towards that downside. Again, markets aren't really making that substantial low, right? So, I mean, if your stop losses are still at that 32882, you may be in the position where you want to just hold that and then decide what happens there and after. But from my perspective, we've smashed the 61.8. We've gone through that 45 exponential moving average, and all signs now are going to be leading towards a US stock market, or at least a US 30 that's going to be pushing downside for that 5 o'clock mark. All the volume is ticking in that direction. So we might have banked, I think, a total here. Let's have a look here. Depending where you closed out here, anywhere between 500 and 800 pips on that top side move there. If you've banked 500 to 800 pips already, then what I would say is potentially, in my case, I'm going short and I'm utilizing a 500 pip stop loss, right? Meaning that even if I'm wrong in this afternoon session, and removing the fact that obviously I had earlier trades running, that $10,000 that I've closed out, even if I'm wrong for the New York Stock Exchange reversal, that I cannot lose more than what I've already banked for the session in the previous couple minutes, right? So even if I'm absolutely wrong, I can only be wrong for 500 pips. I already made 500 pips plus, obviously, my earlier entries, and that's ideally where you want to be. You don't want to lose more than what you've already banked for that particular session or for that particular day. That is obviously key and important. We do have NFP coming up tomorrow. There's no reason to waste money this afternoon. We have NFP coming up tomorrow. Again, just based on some of the volatility we've seen over the last couple of days, I suspect NFP is going to be crazy tomorrow, right? I think it's going to be absolutely crazy. Let's see. NASDAQ skyrockets. Yeah, absolutely. What's your fib settings? NASDAQ showing direction, I think. Let's see if NASDAQ is showing direction. Yeah, NAS looks largely unaffected by the 5 o'clock move. We've seen this in the past. NAS does nothing and then just starts to break down. The other one that looks super strong is German 30. We've seen this in the past, and then we've seen that 5 o'clock kicks in, and these markets tend to follow these market structures. So we might be able to map out some price action for the NASDAQ. Again, for those of you who know, if you guys are members of Globex360 Live TV, in terms of joined Globex360 Live TV, my indicator set, my personal indicator set is available to you guys in the back end of Globex360 Live TV. So if you're a subscriber, if you're a member, if you joined, then again, my indicator set, my fib levels, my price action, my trading tools, that's all available to you in the back end. So there we go. Nice big sell off there. US City moving quite nicely down. There we go. 400 pips towards that downside, securing the bag towards the downside. So that reversal's kicking in extremely hard, regardless of the fundamental data. And, you know, even though, you know, I'm glad like we're in profit and whatnot, I'm just sad that, you know, the dollar data is not going to stick. Again, I think the markets needed to see that weaker dollar data, but it is what it is. Secure some profit now, maybe close up a position of around about 300 pips or so. It can continue to run. Don't close up all your positions. Again, we are currently running around about 400 pips in profits, and I think we'll bring our Trump again on maybe about 500 pips, right? So I think our agreement was, we said only 500 pips or more will bring our Trump to do his little dance. So yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed. I would have liked to have seen, you know, that continuation. There we've hit our 500 pips there. We can bring out Trump to do his thing once again. But again, I would have liked to have seen the dollar data prevail, right? The weaker dollar data, giving us a nice early entry into a long position on the markets. But again, we may have to wait for that until tomorrow, right? We may need tomorrow to come and kick in before we can open up, get in some positions. Again, the advanced analysis prior to NFP, I'm hoping, and as you guys have seen in the past, I hope to get in a position based on the outlook that I have before NFP even kicks off. So never mind even taking a trade on NFP. I really want to be in a position before NFP happens where I think that the markets can go. Now again, our job is not to be right. Our job is not to predict the markets. Our job is just to, when we make money, make a lot more than when we lose, right? Lose 3%, make 10%, and every time you make that decision, you should be smiling and having a good day. So nice little successful New York Stock Exchange iceberg pump to the top side for a couple hundred pips with a nice little pullback retracement. We are currently running at about 550 pips towards that downside. Now guys, please remember, tomorrow is going to be big. It's going to be massive. That is where it's going to be. All eyes on NFP, the ripple effect in the US market, in terms of interest rates announcements and all that stuff. It all hinges on tomorrow. So scalping is great. 500 pips is great, but tomorrow we could see an excess of 6,000 to 7,000 pips, 60 to 70,000 points. That is where the big money is, right? So again, we're hoping to essentially smash the first quarter of this year by ending up with a really strong NFP for March. So again, if you want to be part of that, it's $1,000 live account. Make sure you're a Premium Plus member to get access to all the advanced analysis, the really deep shows that we get deeper into. Fabian, I've got some really cool changes that are coming to the show. You guys are going to get an extra view of what's actually happening in the studio from this end. You guys only ever get to see sometimes the back end, like where it's kind of all messy. You guys never get to see the full view of how crazy it looks on this side of the fence. You're going to get some different views, some different animations. Powell is going to be there. We're going to have old Sleepy Joe Biden in there too. We're going to have a ton of different people. And who knows, we might even get Fabian in here to do his little dance for us. You never know. Vote for me. Let me know if you guys think that is where it is going to be. Fabian apparently owes Rafchua 1,000 before tomorrow. Yeah, that's nice. That's amazing. Rafchua is doing Fabian's doing a GoFundMe. So anybody, he's distributing some of his money. I think he's giving away $1,000 to 10 different people. So everybody spam the chat with Fabian, and maybe he will share with us his riches, right? Let's see. Who knows? Guys, listen, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure. Again, we continue to ride that US City reversal to that downside this afternoon. I would simply, my personal opinion, not financial advice, secure your position, put your stop loss into profit. So this way, you're now an investor in the markets, no matter which way it ends up going. Outside of that, guys, you know the drill. It is the end of the day. I loved the session with us together. Again, as always, even though this is a free service to every Globex360 live account holder, I know that your time is not free. Your time is worth something. And I appreciate you taking the time to invest in yourself in the markets right here with us at Globex 360 Live TV. Outside that, guys, you know the drill. Remember to live, learn, and trade the Globex 360 way. And until I see you all tomorrow for the advanced setup of NFP before 1 o'clock as we go live on the public NFP. I think it is 3:15, if I'm not mistaken. I'll see you all a little bit later. Goodbye.